very well. You and I probably still need to get together and talk about next steps. If we could meet, let's say, in about an hour, that would be great. We can talk about how we're going to get this delivered to the next level. And hold on a second. Sorry. Hold on, some creepy guy is sitting next to me. It's kind of weird. But excuse me, do I know you?
Not yet.
Oh, what are you doing?
I detect a Wi-Fi signal here. It's non-secure, it's free, that's all I need.
Dude, it doesn't work like that.
You sure?
Yeah, I'm sure. You know what? You look like you need some help. If you'd like, I'll enlighten you on the internet and how it works. Can you give me a couple minutes to finish my call? Maybe you could wait over there?
Okay. Wrap it up.
Creepy
Let's
dude.
learn together.
Creepy dude's still here.
We're speaking with Todd Walden, MGM Resorts. Welcome, Todd.
Hi, Bill. Good morning.
And John Reese, PSAV. John,
Good morning.
welcome. And the subject is Wi-Fi, specifically Wi-Fi and venues. And I guess because it's venues, Todd, we'll start with you. I'll throw
Sure.
you the first question. Of all the issues that hoteliers and other venue operators are dealing with, how important is Wi-Fi as an issue, and why?
I think it's a huge issue. I think the content, the demand for Wi-Fi has grown exponentially over the last few years. As we're all familiar, 3 years ago there was no such thing as an iPad. Today everyone has one. We had attendees showing up 3-4 years ago, they'd come with a laptop. Now it's not uncommon for them to have 4 devices. On top of their demand, there's the content out there that they're trying to get, and the facilities are really struggling with putting in the infrastructure to be able to support this, and then also trying to figure out how to monetize it.
But if I walk down the street and I see a Starbucks and there's a hotspot,
Sure.
How is it that complex for a facility?
Yeah, you bring up a good point. One access point plugged into the internet, not very complex. But when you're dealing with a high density situation like you'll find in a convention center, so you have, think of a classroom where you've got maybe 300 people in that space, and they're all sitting 24 inches next to each other, 3 feet front and back. They all have their devices out. They all have to access that access point to get to the internet. There's a lot of radio interference. There's a lot of things that have to happen simultaneously to allow them to do that. The engineering that goes into that and the backbone and the infrastructure that it takes to support that is a lot different than what you're going to find in a Starbucks. So there's a huge cost to that, yeah.
John, do planners appreciate that in general, what venues go through?
I think generally speaking, they think it's a very simple process, and if they can get it for free at Starbucks or just access to it, and it's simple at Starbucks, it should be simple everywhere else. And I think the challenge is they've kind of abdicated their responsibility to learn more about the internet and specifically some of the technical things. I think they think it's overly complicated and it's not something that they can understand. And part of our charter is to try to make it so it's easy to understand and so that we're all talking the same terminology first of all, and that everybody understands what questions to ask, and that the venues start to realize that these questions are going to be asked and that they in turn educate their teams to be able to answer those questions.
With all the players involved, the venue, the planners, occasionally the people who have to actually put in the capability, it just seems far more complicated than planners understand. And yet this has been going on for a long time. Is it just a question of bringing them along slowly? Are we forgetting to?
I think, in some of the presentations that we've given, you can see the light go on with the meeting planners when they start understanding that when they talk about wireless, they don't understand that behind that are a lot of wires. There's a lot of cabling that goes into that. There's the whole infrastructure of distributing these points among, in multiple ballrooms, in public space, in the guest rooms. There's a lot of technology that goes into that, and that technology is constantly changing. 3 years ago, the wireless access points that were installed aren't, the ones that you want to be using now.
Right.
Yeah, and you bring up, one of the things, as I was saying earlier to you as we were talking back stage, was that we have meeting planners today that if we were catering, they would be coming to us and saying, we have a lot of people that are coming. We know they're going to be hungry. We don't know what they like to eat. We don't know when they're going to eat or how much they're going to eat. How much is that going to cost us? And that's kind of what we're facing in some of the Wi-Fi world. So it's trying to get the conversation elevated so we're at least talking the same language. There's a base knowledge and understanding that meeting planners are asking of facilities, and in return, facilities then have that knowledge to be able to provide them back. Like also, facilities, I would love to see a standard where facilities were providing a report, a suite of reports, letting every meeting planner that's in the facility that's using HSIA, how much they used. You know, how many people accessed the internet and what was the throughput and stuff, to create at least some baselines for them as they move their conventions to other facilities or even come back to that facility. They know what worked, what didn't work, and we can start to build on that knowledge.
That doesn't happen now?
It does. John, do you?
Well, one of the things I was going to say, Todd, is most meeting planners know how many covers they had for a certain night for dinner. They know the attrition rate for their attendees. There's a lot of information they know, but when I ask them, well, what was the bandwidth usage at your last meeting?
Right.
Or what's the bandwidth that you need for your upcoming meeting? They have no idea.
Right.
It's not a conversation they've been trained to have. And so what we're trying to do is educate them on that, give them some tools. The Convention Industry Council has on their side a bandwidth estimator that at least gives them a general idea if they can plug in the number of attendees, the type of usage that these attendees might have, high, medium, low, and also the number of devices that the attendees usually travel with. Is it multiple devices? And they can plug this data in, and it'll give them a baseline starting point where they can at least have a dialogue that says, look, I know I'm going to need at least 20 megs of data based on the bandwidth estimator, but let's have a conversation now about what my specific needs are. Do I need dedicated bandwidth? Do I need shared bandwidth? And these are the things that we're trying to educate them, just asking the questions. And it's not as complicated as people have made it out to be.
We've focused largely on hotels, understandably so, but what about convention centers? Are they a different breed of cat or the same issues?
I think it's the same issues.
Okay.
They're different in the sense that there's more design that goes into these systems. I mean, they're very complex, putting together Wi-Fi. If you've got, hundreds of people all accessing stuff at one time, there's a level of engineering that goes into that to make sure that the service level is there, that the throughput for what they're trying to get on their individual devices is there, that it works, it's consistent. I don't know, John, what?
Well, I think when you talk about the convention centers, it is a little bit different breed for us because many of our experience has been in hotels. And if we talk about the bandwidth estimator, that goes up to 1,000 attendees. We are trying to compile some data right now, working with convention center managers that manage the internet on, how can we expand the bandwidth calculator to work in convention center spaces? Because it is a different breed altogether, and there's a lot of different usages that are going on in there. The complexity you have at the convention center is much greater, I think, than most hotels that we work with. And when we do our CIC presentations to the industry, we actually show a video of Steve Jobs on a new product release that he was doing in a large venue. And basically, he could not do his presentation because he could not access the internet. What had happened was there were, I think it was 680 individual MiFi devices in the audience that the bloggers were all using to blog out, which was interfering with the radio signals with the internet there. So he was not actually able to do his presentation.
I'm going to go to some websites. I'm going to go to the New York Times today. And let's just compare these websites. Our networks in here are always unpredictable, so they're I have no idea what we're going to find. They are slow today. You could help me out if you're on Wi-Fi, if you could just get off. I'd appreciate it. We're having a little problem here. I don't know what's wrong with our networks. I'm afraid I have a problem, and I'm not going to be able to show you much here today.
Perfect example.
Right. And that all comes in when you talk about the planning process. So what we're trying to do is get the meeting planners to understand that the bandwidth is as important as any other component of their meeting, and it has to be something that is talked about at the initial site visit, and it's something that you need to be doing a lot of planning for, because if you choose a venue that doesn't have the bandwidth that you need, then it's not just a matter of flipping the switch and saying, okay, we're going to bring in a bigger circuit and be able to do that. It can take weeks and months to get an internet service provider to bring in more bandwidth into that venue. So it is something you have to be planning for well in advance.
So a year from now or 2 years from now, when we're having a similar discussion, where will we be? You think planners will have been able to manage this, and will it all come together at some point? Fairly seamlessly?
I do, because I really think that we're really getting the word out. People are really listening. And they're realizing it's not as complicated. I mean, when Todd talks about the complexity, there's a lot that goes into it with the engineering that has to be done. And let's leave that to those experts.
Behind the scenes.
We're
yeah.
just trying to say there's some basic things that you can understand, that you can learn, that gives you the knowledge to have intelligent conversations with the venues that you're planning to go into. And all you have to do is open your eyes.
And I think you said earlier, Todd, it's just as easy as managing your beverage and food. It's no more complicated.
It's no more complicated. I would say maybe in some ways less complicated.
Right.
So it's just understanding that.
Great. You have both been so helpful, so generous with your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Bill.
And thank you for joining us, and please come back and see more episodes later.